Look at a map of the Middle East. Israel and Iran aren't even neighbors. They don't share a single inch of border. In fact, there are entire countries, Iraq and Jordan, standing between them like massive physical buffers. The distance between Jerusalem and Tehran is roughly 1,000 miles. In the history of warfare, this kind of distance usually meant safety. You don't fight someone you can't reach. But in this case, the distance is a complete illusion. For decades, these two have been engaged in a shadow war. It's a conflict fought through proxies, cyber attacks, and targeted assassinations. They have found ways to bleed each other without ever crossing a physical border. Iran's strategy is built on proxies. They don't need to march their own army across the desert. Instead, they fund and arm groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon or Hamas in Gaza. These groups act as Iran's extended reach, right at Israel's doorstep. Israel responds with a high-tech shield and a surgical air force. To them, the distance isn't a barrier. It's just a variable in a mathematical equation for a missile strike. Technology has effectively deleted the 1,000 miles between them. A ballistic missile from Iran can reach Israel in about 12 minutes. A drone takes a few hours. When your enemy can touch you in the time it takes to eat lunch, geography becomes irrelevant. The war is fought in the sky and on the internet. But why the obsession? Iran seeks to establish what experts call a Shiite crescent, a land bridge of influence stretching from Tehran to the Mediterranean Sea. Israel is the only major obstacle, sitting right in the middle of that path. Israel views this as an existential threat. They follow a strict doctrine. No enemy in the region can be allowed to possess weapons of mass destruction. To Israel, Iran's nuclear ambitions are a ticking clock leading to their destruction. This is a collision of two incompatible visions for the Middle East. It's like two predators on a mountain that can only support one. They fight because their core ideologies and survival instincts are in direct, constant conflict. In the modern world, hate doesn't need a passport to cross borders. The shadow war has always been there, but recently, the shadows have started to burn. To understand where this is going, we have to look at the cracks in the old system. The term shadow war isn't just a metaphor. It's a deliberate strategy to bleed an enemy without starting a full-scale conventional war. Iran has spent decades perfecting this, building a network of influence that surrounds Israel from multiple directions. At the heart of this network is the axis of resistance. Iran provides the money, the training, and the missiles, but they rarely pull the trigger themselves. They use non-state actors who are willing to fight and die for a shared ideological cause. To the north, you have Hezbollah in Lebanon, a group so heavily armed it functions like a mini-state with a massive rocket arsenal. To the south, Hamas in Gaza. These are the front lines of a war that Iran manages from a safe distance. This strategy creates a massive dilemma for Israel. How do you stop the hand that feeds the fire without burning the entire house down? If Israel strikes the proxies, the source in Tehran remains untouched. If they strike Tehran, they risk a regional apocalypse. Israel hasn't been sitting idle. Their response is a quiet but deadly campaign of mowing the grass. They use intelligence and precision strikes to degrade the capabilities of these proxies, hoping to keep the threat at a manageable level. But the most dangerous part of this shadow game is the nuclear question. Iran's nuclear facilities are buried deep underground, protected by mountains and air defense systems. To Israel, a nuclear-armed Iran isn't just a political shift, it's a death sentence. For years, Israel has used cyber attacks like Stuxnet to sabotage Iran's centrifuges and targeted assassinations to remove their top scientists. It's a desperate attempt to slow down a process that feels inevitable. The tension is a coiled spring. The problem with a shadow war is that it relies on plausible deniability. As long as both sides can deny direct involvement, they can avoid a total collapse. But as the attacks become more frequent and more public, the shadows are disappearing. Every proxy strike and every cyber sabotage is a step closer to a direct confrontation. The distance that used to provide safety is now just a vast, empty space where missiles fly. The rules of the game are changing in real time. We are moving from a world of quiet manipulation to a world of loud, direct violence. The threshold for what used to be unthinkable is being crossed. To understand why this escalation is happening now, we have to look a little deeper. Why does a conflict between two nations 1,000 miles apart involve the rest of the world? Because this isn't just about Tehran and Jerusalem, it's about the energy arteries of the planet. The Middle East isn't just a region, it's the world's gas station. Iran sits on the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most important oil choke point. 1/5 of the world's oil passes through this narrow stretch of water. If Iran feels backed into a corner, they have the power to shut the lights off for the entire global economy. Israel knows this. Their allies know this. This is why every move is a high-stakes gamble. If the shadow war turns into a real blockade, gas prices don't just go up. The entire supply chain of the modern world starts to fracture. Then there is the role of the superpowers. Russia and China have grown closer to Iran, providing a diplomatic and economic shield. On the other side, the United States remains Israel's ultimate security guarantee. It's a proxy war on a global scale. Iran's defense and depth strategy isn't just about missiles. It's about making the cost of an attack so high that no one dares to try. They've built missile cities, underground bunkers carved into mountains that are almost impossible to destroy from the air. Yeah. Of course. B2 can do it though. Anyway, Israel counters this with the most advanced, multi-layered missile defense system on Earth. The Iron Dome, David's Sling, and the Arrow. They've turned their entire sky into a digital minefield, intercepting threats before they even touch the ground. But even the best shield isn't perfect. A saturation attack, launching hundreds of drones and missiles at once, is designed to overwhelm the system. It's a brutal math problem, where the winner is whoever has more ammo than the other has interceptors. The distance between them used to buy time. Time for diplomacy, time for cooling down. But with hypersonic missiles and AI-driven drones, that time has evaporated. We are living in an era of instant escalation, where a single mistake can trigger a regional fire. The world watches the Middle East because the chain reaction doesn't stop at the border. A war between Iran and Israel is a war over the future of the global order. It's a test of who still holds the power to set the rules, and who is willing to break them. As the shadow war moves into the light, the stakes for every human on Earth are rising. This isn't just about two distant rivals. It's about the very foundation of global stability. For decades, there was an unwritten rule. Don't strike each other's soil directly. Use proxies, use hackers, use spies. But never a direct state-on-state missile barrage. That taboo, that thin line holding back a total regional war, is now officially dead. When Iran launched hundreds of drones and missiles directly from its own territory, it wasn't just a military move, it was a psychological earthquake. They effectively announced that the shadow war is over. The fight is now in the open, and there is no going back. Israel's response was equally significant. By striking back inside Iran, they sent a clear message. The distance that used to provide a degree of safety is gone. No base, no factory, and no leader is untouchable, regardless of how many miles lie between them. This is the escalation ladder. Each strike demands a bigger counterstrike to maintain what generals call deterrence. But when both sides feel they must have the last word, the ladder only leads to one place, a fire that no one can put out. The world is terrified because this conflict doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in a region that controls the world's pulse. If a full-scale war breaks out, the Strait of Hormuz could be closed, and the global economy could be sent into a tailspin within days. What makes this even more dangerous is the erosion of diplomacy. Communication channels are breaking down. When leaders stop talking and start launching, the margin for error becomes zero. A single miscalculated strike could trigger a chain reaction. The civilian cost is the most tragic part of this blueprint. Millions of people in both nations are living in a state of constant high alert, waiting for the sirens that signify the end of their normal lives. The psychological toll is a weapon in itself. We are seeing the birth of a new kind of warfare, one where the battlefield is 1,000 miles wide and the weapons move at hypersonic speeds. It's a war where the front line is everywhere at once, from a suburb in Tel Aviv to a suburb in Tehran. The old order of the Middle East is being torn up. The shadow war provided a grim kind of stability, a way for rivals to fight without burning the world. Now that the shadows are gone, we are left with the blinding heat of direct conflict. As we move into the final chapter, we have to ask, where does this path end? Is there a way to de-escalate? Or are we witnessing the beginning of a conflict that will redefine the 21st century? Unfortunately, the illusion of a contained conflict is actually over. Israel struck first, targeting the very heart of Iran's command structure and leadership hubs. By hitting where the top brass breathes and operates, they didn't just target weapons, they targeted the brain of the regime. It was a clear message: no one is safe. Iran's retaliation was immediate and wider than expected. Instead of just striking Israel, they began hitting U.S. military bases scattered across Iraq, Jordan, and Syria. It's a clear message to Washington: if Israel fights, America pays the price. The U.S. has responded with overwhelming military pressure. Aircraft carrier strike groups are swarming the region, and economic sanctions have turned into a literal blockade. We are no longer watching a regional spat. We are witnessing a direct collision between global powers. When does this end? The terrifying truth is that there is no clear exit ramp. As the U.S. increases pressure, Iran feels they have nothing left to lose, pushing them closer to the ultimate nuclear option. It's a cycle of escalation, where diplomacy has run out of oxygen. The immediate risk for us isn't just a distant war. It's the total collapse of the energy supply chain. If the Strait of Hormuz is mined or blocked, the world's oil flow stops instantly. Your grocery bills, your gas prices, and your electricity are all on the front line. We also face the threat of asymmetric warfare. Cyber attacks on power grids, water systems, and financial networks can happen anywhere. In a world of digital connectivity, a war in the Middle East can shut down a hospital in your hometown within minutes. So, how do we prepare? We must accept that the just-in-time world is over. We need to build individual and national resilience, securing essential resources and diversifying our economic dependencies before the next shock hits. Self-sufficiency is no longer a choice, it's a strategy. The geopolitical map of the 21st century is being rewritten in real time. The risk of a multi-front war involving major powers is higher than it has been in 80 years. We are witnessing the birth of a new, more dangerous global order. Preparation starts with information. Don't just watch the headlines. Understand the mechanics of the conflict. In an era of chaos, the only shield we have is the ability to see the danger before it arrives. The blueprints of the past are burning. I'm Abel. The distance between us and the battlefield has evaporated, and the stakes have never been higher. The future is uncertain, but it belongs to those who stay awake while others sleep. Stay sharp, guys.